Please excuse my appearance because I look dead right now. I have work in like half an hour, so I'm trying to get this done because I know I'm not going to have any time to do it this week, which is one of the main reasons why I haven't been doing videos or why I didn't plan on doing videos, because I have school full time and I work I work like 4 days a week, sometimes 5, and then obviously I have my son, so I don't really have time to sit down and like talk, which he won't be making an appearance in today's video. He's with his dad right now, which is why I have the time to make this finally. So I'm just gonna get right into where I left off in my last story. So I told you guys a little bit about like how we led up to getting to the hospital, with like the whole barbershop story, which I really don't want to go through again, so we're just gonna not talk about it. So we got to the hospital after like the main like admission office had closed, so I had to go through the emergency room, and we met a lot of nurses along the way just to the room. So the first nurse wanted me to wait in the waiting room because apparently like their paperwork isn't interchanged or something, or like something was going on where they had to get my pre-registration paperwork from the main hospital before they could let me in, which was weird. So I was told I would have to wait, and then a couple minutes later, another nurse came up to me and asked me like what I was there for, and I told her, and she goes, "Okay, I'll get a wheelchair and we'll take you back right now." And so like I explained the paperwork thing, and she was like, "No, that's fine. Like we'll take you back. It's okay." And I was like, "Okay, like I'm fine with that. I do not want to wait in a waiting chair." So they got the wheelchair and they were taking me back, and so we made it through the main hallway, and we were just kind of talking about like, oh, like, are you excited? What have you been doing with your day? Just like general like small talk. And so we get through the first doors to get into just the labor and delivery unit, and another nurse approaches us, and she asked us like, oh, does she have her paperwork? She asked some other questions, but I know that the paperwork was the main thing. And the nurse in charge of pushing me was like, well, we don't have her paperwork yet. They're getting it right now, but I'm going to go get her vitals and get her into a bed and possibly get her, like, ready for admittance. And so, is that even a word? I don't know. And so, they were fighting. Like, they literally got into an argument right in front of me. And I was, like, sitting there having active contractions. And wheelchairs are not the most comfortable things. And so, eventually, the lady pushing me finally got her way and was like, I'm still going to take her. So she kept walking with me. And I feel like there was like a personal like issue with them, because on the way from the nursing, like where we met the nurse, to my room, she was like in detail explaining to me like she doesn't know what she's doing. She was like, we just won't even listen to her. Like, listen to me. I've been doing this for blah, blah, blah. Like, we'll get you set up, we'll get you comfortable. And I was like, okay, like, I don't really mind that you have personal problems, but I kind of want to just, like, have my child in peace here. So finally we got to the room, and she was waiting on the doctor to come in, but she was like, I'll get your vitals set up. And so vitals is, like, your heart rate, your blood pressure, did you say heart rate? Pulse? I don't know. There's a bunch of things. My mind's gone right now, I'm sorry. And so she pulls out a cuff, and then, like, the blood pressure cuff, and she looks at it and then goes, oh, wait, this isn't for you. We need a younger one. And at that time, I had no medical knowledge at all. Like, I did not have my medical classes at the time. And so I wasn't thinking, like, oh, a smaller one. I was just thinking, like, oh, like, maybe there's, like, certain, I don't know. I was dumb, okay? And so she pulls out another one and puts it on and turns on the machine, and I was like, this is really, really tight on my arm. And she goes, it's because it's a blood pressure, like we had to cut off your circulation, that's why it gets tight. And I was like, well, I know you have to do that, but I don't know, it just feels tight, but okay. And I just let her do her thing. Like, she's a nurse, she has a degree, I didn't have a degree, so she must know what she's doing. And so she's getting it set up, and then another nurse comes in. The same one who was fighting with her in the hallway comes in, and they were talking really quiet, so I didn't hear what they were saying, but they were obviously, like, still arguing. Like, it was clear they had issues with each other. And so the nurse, we're just going to call her Nurse 1. Nurse 1 who pushed me had left the room at the time, and Nurse 2 came in and, like, double-checked everything, which I'm okay with that, but while she was double-checking everything, she was saying, I just need to make sure she did it right. Sometimes she doesn't do things right, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you guys are in charge of my life right now. Like, you have 2 lives in your hand and you're fighting. Like, this is not okay. And so at that point, I got really irritated. And I was like, okay, well, do you have anything else you need to do? And she had said, like, she told me, like, no, we're waiting on the doctor. We're waiting to see if you can get admitted. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. Like, trying to get her to leave. And so she did some other things, just mean, like, housekeeping things, and then left. So it was just me and his father in the room at the time. So we, like, took my last bump pictures and texted everyone, just kind of updating them on where we were at. And then the doctor came in and was like, we have your papers, we're going to check you, and then depending on how far along you are, we'll admit you if you need to be admitted. And so they checked me, and I think I was at like a 3 maybe? I was at like a 3 or a 4, which it goes up to a 10, and a 10 is when you're ready to push. So they were like, it's not that far along, but it could progress rapidly, so what we're going to do is admit you, and if you're still like at a 3 or not above a 5 within so many hours, we're just going to have you go home, labor at home, and come back. So at that time, I was like, I do not want to leave this hospital. Like, I better get further along right now. And so they came in like an hour and a half later, and I still wasn't that far along. So I want to say it was like 10 by then, maybe? No, it wasn't. I'm lying to you. It was like 8:30. And so they were like, we have a medicine we can give you to help, like, hurry along the process. And I was like, okay, like, I'm fine with that. So it was just, like, something they put in my IV. And once they put it in, my contractions hit. I have never felt so much pain in my life. So I was laying there, and the medicine didn't hit at first, and I was like, I haven't eaten in a long time. Can I have food? Which any time you're in labor, you're not allowed to have food. But I don't know if I was just rude. Like, I feel bad because I feel like I was really rude to the nurses, but I was also in pain at the time. And so finally I got her to bring me a sandwich. So I ate a sandwich, and as soon as I was done, it was like instant, like something snapped. And I was like laying in bed in pain, crying. Like, my grandma was asking, because my grandma's there at the time, she was like asking, she was like, are you okay? Like, can I do anything? And I couldn't even talk to say anything to her. I was just like laying there with like tears streaming down my face. And they would hit for like 2 minutes at a time, and then they would end, and then they would hit again for 2 minutes at a time. And I tried. I did not want to have an epidural. I pushed so hard to not have one. And I was in labor for, I want to say, like a total of 12 hours. So for the first 9 hours, I did so good. I was like, I don't need one. I'm fine. And then it was 3 a.m. and I was really, really tired. Like, I was exhausted. When they say that your body, like, shuts down on you after, like, you go through pain or something like that, they 100% mean it. Because my body lost all energy. It was like I couldn't even move. Like, I couldn't do anything. I didn't want to talk to anyone. Like, his dad was asleep the whole time I was in labor. He slept, and, like, they have, like, little couch beds next to it. So he had worked the night before, so he pulled out the bed and was sleeping the whole time. So it was just me and my grandma. And she was really supportive, though. She, like, held my hand. She wiped my tears whenever I needed water or something. She would give it for me. Like, she was 100% tending to all of my needs. And then they came into my room, I want to say, like, 3 times. And the nurses were like, do you want the epidural? Like, we have to call him. It'll take him a while for him to get down here. And the first 3 times I was like, no, like, I can do this. I don't want it at all. Because I had heard about the permanent back pain from it, which my mom has, I think. I don't know. So I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to do that. And then finally, the 4th time they come in around, I want to say, like, 3 a.m. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, please call him down here. I need this now. And I remember, I don't know what it was. I think it was maybe because I finally decided that I wanted it and my body was like anticipating for the pain to stop, that it just got worse and worse so quickly. And there was a lady in the room next to me, and I could hear her like screaming. I think she had her baby like 3 hours before Jay was born. And she was like screaming and screaming. And like the words she was saying, I was like I cannot do this without an epidural. Like, there is no way in hell. Because I had heard the anesthesiologist go into her room before he eventually got to me. And so I was like, if she has an epidural and is screaming like that, I am not doing it without one. No, tripping. So, he finally came in. They told me, like, yeah, it'll be like 20 minutes. He finally comes in, like, 35 minutes later. And at this time, like, my body was just, like, done. I was like, get this in me as fast as possible. So they sat me up on the edge of the bed, and I was, like, still crying because I couldn't stop. Like, it's not that I was, like, sad. It was just that, like, my body was in so much pain that was the reaction, was just cry. So I was, like, sitting up on the edge of the bed crying. I had my grandma next to me. And they were like, we only want one person because if, I forget what the reason was, but I know that if I moved too much, it would really, like, it could, like, permanently mess up my body. So they're like, only one person, and, like, they can sit there and hold your hand, but not too close. So I woke up his dad, because I was like, I'm not going to make my grandma go through this pain of me squeezing the life out of your hand. So I was like, he's been sleeping, he's been resting, like, I've been doing this all by myself, he can wake up. So I woke him up, and I was like, I need you to just stand here and hold my hand. So he's, like, half asleep, sitting on the bed, like, the edge of the couch, and holding my hand. And he was like, okay, this is going to be a small pinch, and then, what was it? A small pinch, and then, like, cold. So I was like, okay, I got this. And the initial poke felt like I was being stung on my spine by a bee. Like, it was, like, tight and warm, and then as soon as, like, he started to thread the needle in, it was, like, cold shot straight up my back. Like, my whole spine was, like, frozen. And so I moved a little bit when he first poked it, and the guy, like, yelled at me. And I was like, I'm sorry, but this really hurts. And, I'm still having contractions. So, like, I'm having active contractions where my body just wants to, like, curl up into a fetus position, and they're like, don't move at all. And I was like, yes, this is easy. Let me get this done for you. And so I was trying so hard to not move. And then finally, like, they got it in, and they laid me down, and I thought it wasn't going to take because it was, like, half an hour, and I could still feel a lot of my body. And I was like, if this does not work, I am not pushing him out. I was done. Like, I was like, there's no way I can get through this. And I think I kind of psyched myself out because of the lady before me. So I'm laying there, and then I tried to move. Like, I tried to turn, and I couldn't. Like, I physically could not get my body to move. And I was like, oh, yes. Like, it is working. And so they came in every once in a while and, like, had to turn me. So they had me, like, on my side, mainly on my sides. So they would come in and flip me because, like, when I laid on my side for too long, that half of my body would get numb. And then this half of my body would still, like, I could start moving it again. So for it to, like, evenly distribute, they had to keep flipping me. So finally, once I got it, the nurse was like, get your rest now. So that was around, like, 3:30-ish. And then, like, 3 hours later, I was, like, awake and not awake. I kept, like, going in and out. And then finally they came in, like, 3 hours later and, like, we're going to check you again. And they were like, they checked me and they're like, okay, like, it's time to push. So my sister had been at the hospital when I first got in there, and then they were like, well, it's going to be a long time, so go home and get some sleep, and we'll call you when she's ready to push, because she wanted to be there. So I'm telling my grandma, I was like, my phone is charging, call Camille, get her over here. And I don't remember anything after that point, really, because I was, like, focusing on I wanted to, like, get ready to push him out. So apparently she never called her, because she didn't find out till after I had him. And my legs got in the stirrups, and I was, like, ready. Okay, so this is the part that irritates me the most. So I wanted him next to me to hold my hand, and, like, where I could see him. So I was like, I want him, like, in the middle, kind of by, like, my leg, but not all the way down where he can see stuff, because I didn't want him to pass out. But I didn't want her down where she could see stuff, which is his mom. So I was like, stand right here next to the bed, and she can stand, like, above my head back there. And she goes down to my leg and is, like, standing right there. And he's standing, like, next to me, but not where I can hold his hand and see him, which all I wanted to was be able to see him. And so I was really irritated, but I was in a lot of pain, and no one was listening to me. Like, my grandma was talking, his mom was talking, the nurse and the doctors were talking, and no one was listening to me. I was trying to tell them, like, move down, you guys switch, like, this is what I need. So finally they tell me to start pushing. I was like, clearly I'm not going to get my way here. Like, no one wanted to listen to me. So I start pushing, and I finally started pushing at 6, oh god, what time was it? 6:50 something. Yeah. I finally started pushing like 6:50 something, and halfway through, I started like hyperventilating. I only actually pushed, I think, like 4 times maybe, because you push 3 times for 10 seconds. So like I did that 4 times, and then they give you a break in between. So I did 2, and I was okay. And then I started like hyperventilating because I was like, my body is not gonna get him out. Like, something's gonna happen, because I was a C-section baby. So I was like, my body's not gonna let him out. I'm gonna have a C-section. I was like panicking, and I couldn't breathe, and something started going off on my monitor. So they made his father turn on the oxygen and hold the oxygen mask to my face, which further complicated anyone listening to me because I had a mask on my face, so I couldn't talk. So I was just laying there, and he had to hold the mask on my face, and I had his hand in my other hand, and then I had my grandma's hand. And I don't remember what it was, but finally I was like, one more push, and this child is going to be out of me. I was like, I don't want to go through this. So I pushed, like, with all of my freaking body, pushed. And I remember they said, oh, like, that's his head. And then the next one, like, his whole body came out. And this is, sorry, TMI. Anyone who asks me, like, what it feels like, I was not in pain while I was pushing. I think the pain came from, like, hyperventilating. Like, that was my pain, was I was psyching myself out. But when he finally, like, came out, I was really hyped up on, like, the epidural and all the meds. And so I was like, oh my god, that feels like an octopus. Like, I just felt like a bunch of tentacles, like, came out of me. And so then I don't remember, like, the whole, like, chain of events. But he wasn't crying when he came out. And I'm not sure if they're supposed to cry right away, but he wasn't crying, and he wasn't crying. And I was like, why don't I hear him? And then my nurse, either the nurse or the doctor, was like, his cord is wrapped around his head. And I, like, panicked. Like, my whole heart started beating, and I couldn't, like, think, and I didn't hear what anyone else was saying. And then finally I don't remember if they said, like, that he started crying. I don't even remember hearing him cry. But I remember they said, okay, Dad, do you want to cut the cord? And they, like, handed scissors to him. And so he's reaching across me with scissors. And I was so out of it at the time that I was like, oh my god, he's trying to kill me. I was like, why is he trying to kill me? And so then he cut the cord, and I was still really, like, out of it. And you're like, okay, here you go. And they're handing me him. And I was, like, laying there, and I was like, whose kid is this? Like, I was like, why are you handing me a child? And then, so they handed him to me, and they had me doing skin to skin. And I just lost it. I was, like, bawling my eyes out. And the whole time I was pregnant, I was like, I would talk to him, and I would always call him, like, baby boy. And so I was like, hi, baby boy. And I said it over and over and over and over again. And I was, like, bawling my eyes out. And so I fed him for the first time, because they want you to feed him really fast, like within, like, after you have him, because, like, skin to skin is really good, because then they get that connection with me. And then obviously, like, to eat, that way we can figure out, like, if he latches correctly, and, like, we can figure everything out. So I fed him, and then they were like, we need an hour of just parents and baby time, which is called, like, bonding time, because within the first hour, it's really beneficial to have, like, as minimal people around the baby as possible, so that way, like, my son knows whose mom is and whose dad is, and we can build that connection. So it was just us, and they did, like, all the tests on him and stuff, and then finally everyone got to come back in for, like, his first bath, his weighing and his measuring. And I got to finally, like, they had taken the epidural out by then, so I finally got to get up and move around for the first time in, like, 4 hours. So I had my sister take me to the bathroom because I had everything connected, and I couldn't move very good. So I had my sister take me to the bathroom, and there's this myth, I don't know if it's, like, fully a myth or just for me, but obviously everyone's like, after you have a kid, like, it's not the same. Like, speaking of in terms of, like, private areas. So, this is so much TMI, but this is the funniest part of my thing because I still had the meds in my system. It takes a while for them to get out. And so I was, like, having a mental breakdown in the bathroom with my sister because I couldn't, like, go to the bathroom correctly. And I was just, like, I was out of it. And so I asked my sister. I was, like, crying and I'm in tears. And I was, like, does it look like a pastrami sandwich? And I don't know if she was joking with me, like, to make me feel bad, or, like, if it was true, but she was like, yeah, it's not normal. And so I started crying again. And so my nurse came in and was like, is everything okay? We were like, yeah, like, we're fine. And so they, like, weighed my baby, measured him. He was 2 inches over, like, average baby height. So they're like, he's going to be over 6 feet tall when he's older. And I was like, no, like, I'm 5'1". I've been 5'1" for 4 years now. There's no way he's going to surpass me. Especially not, like, early ages. And so, they gave him his first bath. And I think that was, like, the most loving thing that I've ever witnessed. Like, I was just in awe of it. Like, I was in the video, like, recording it, and I was just looking at him, and his, like, his face and his head, and, like, oh, he was perfect. And so, after that, it was just a bunch of, like, getting, like, situated. They told me about the cord being wrapped around his head because I finally had the medicine out of my system so I could listen and, like, understand. And so they told me that when he was born, it was wrapped around his head twice, which normally, when the cord's wrapped around the baby's head, it tightens while they're passing through, like, the birth canal. And this is a part of my pregnancy that I will forever remember, is they had told me that the cord has, I want to say, like, a gel, like a substance, like a liquid substance that coats it when it's very, very healthy. And so they had asked about, like, my exercise and my dieting while I was pregnant, and I explained it to them how, like, I always exercised. I ate so good when I was pregnant. And they were like, if you hadn't, your child, like, there's a chance he would not have survived. They were like, the coating that was around it, there was so much of it because you took such good care of yourself that it physically would not let itself tighten. So even though it was wrapped around his neck, it never tightened. Like, it was never even going to be possible to tighten to the point where it would cut off his airflow. So remember when she told me that, it was just me and her and the baby at the time, and I just, like, silently cried because I was like, it's happiness. I was like, I did that. Like, I took care of my son before he was even in this world. I was so proud of myself. And so they moved us to the recovery room, and the nurse there took my blood pressure cuff off. This is where we come back to the tightness. Took my blood pressure cuff off and goes, it was after they had already told me, like, we need to give you medicine because you had high blood pressure, because my blood cuff kept reading high blood pressure, which is common during delivery, but it requires extra days in the hospital and, like, extra medication. And so they'd already told me that, and they'd already put it in my chart, and the nurse comes in and goes, this is a children's cuff. Why did they put this on you? And I was like, what? Like, I'm so confused. And they're like, she's like, this one is way too small for you, and put on the normal one. Every single blood pressure reading after that was perfectly normal. Everyone during my pregnancy checkups was perfectly normal. And I was like, there's no way you're going to give me the medicine for high blood pressure when I don't have high blood pressure, because I knew that I didn't. I told them that I didn't. So they still, like, by law said that they had to give it to me. I had to stay in the hospital for 3 days after having him because of my high blood pressure, which I didn't have. So that pissed me off. And then I had to have a catheter put in. Like I said, I couldn't use the bathroom. Couldn't use the bathroom properly. So I had to have a catheter put in, which sucked because I was in bed 24/7. If I wanted to walk, it felt like I had a knife between my legs. Like, it was the worst pain ever. And I just could not physically get myself to go to the bathroom. Like, before they put it in, I was like, I looked pregnant again. Like, my stomach was so swollen because I could not get anything out of it. So that's why they finally had to put it in, which it helped me, but it sucked. And I didn't get much sleep And it was really, really hard for the first couple days. His dad slept a lot, and obviously I was breastfeeding, so he could not feed him. I had to wake up with him every time and feed him. And we had like a chart where we had to like write down how long he ate for when he started, when he stopped. And I remember like a lot of the times in the middle of the night, I would just be laying there, like holding him, feeding him. And I was in so much pain, like it physically hurt my body, and I would just cry and cry. And I felt so bad because the whole time I was feeding him, I would be like thinking, like, when are you going to be done? Like, please be done soon. And nothing they gave me, like the cream they gave me, the shield they gave me, nothing really helped the pain. So it was a lot of time spent just crying. Like, I cried so much within those 3 days, and it's not because I don't love him, it's not because anything like that, it's just because, like, my body was in pain for 4 days. Finally, the last days when I could, like, go to the bathroom by myself, and I still did not get used to the breastfeeding. I breastfed for 2 months, and it was like that every time. Like, it was physical pain, and then eventually my body, this is a question I get a lot, I breastfed for 2 months, and I wanted to go for longer, but my body stopped producing. I tried everything. I tried herbal supplements. I tried vitamins. I tried, like, physical exercises that you can do, and it just, my body just gave up on it. So that's when he switched over to formula. But I'm glad I got 2 months of breastfeeding because it really helped him a lot. So finally, the hospital stay was, a lot of family came to see him, not much of mine because I live so far away, but a lot of his family came to see him, and it was an experience. I definitely don't want to have a hospital birth again. I want to do a home birth, but that's probably not going to happen. I'm weak. I have the lowest pain tolerance. So it's nice to fantasize about it, but will it ever happen? Probably not. So that was my story. I don't think I left anything out. I probably did because I'm really tired, so my brain's not working properly. But that is how that went. Once we got home, it was really, it felt good to be in my own house again. That's what I missed the most, was my bed. And me and his dad switched off, like, staying at each other's houses with the baby for, like, a week at a time. And then we had a really bad heat wave hit, which in the valley is so bad. It was, like, 110 every day, and my house doesn't have very good AC. So we moved into his house for a while until, like, the heat passed because I was so worried that my baby was going to get too hot and that, like, I was still new, so, like, I was really nervous about everything at the time. So we moved, like, we lived on and off, and it slowly got easier, and then it would drop and get really hard. I think the sleep deprivation was the hardest part about, like, just having a child in general, is because once your brain's deprived of sleep for so long, it really messes with you. Like, it messes with, like, my mental health, it messes with, like, our relationship as far as mine and his father's, because both of us were angry and agitated, so we fought a lot, which is not good at all. And then, like, it didn't make me despise my son, but at some points it made me just want someone to, like, watch him for, like, 2 hours so I could just sleep. But I was breastfeeding, so I couldn't because he was so little that he ate so often. So it was hard, but I definitely want to do it again someday, not in the near future, like 6 or 7 years down the road. But yeah, that is that story. I feel like it was very vague, and I honestly don't remember half of what I said. But thank you for listening if you watched the full video. I'm sorry that it took me so long to post another one. I'm going to try and do videos like one every week. Hopefully, maybe some weeks I can get 2 out. But for me, it's just the filming part of it. I never really have time to sit down and film. So thank you for listening. I have a lot more videos that I want to produce, and then I have a lot more videos that people want to see. So if you have any other videos that you want to know about, or like just anything in general, it doesn't even have to be related to being a mom, drop them in the comments, and I'm definitely going to look into it. Or also, you can message me on Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat. I think I put my Snapchat down there. anything. I'm honestly trying to pursue a new adventure because my life is like school, work, and child, and I need something like new to refresh me. So hopefully YouTube is going to be that, and I want to make some fun videos, especially some with Jay. He'll be back when he comes back with me. He'll be in a couple videos too. So thank you again for listening. I hope I have a new video coming out soon, and I hope this video gets posted within 2 days. So thank you again.